Tell me, what are you really looking for when you go explore old abandoned houses? Peace? Thrills? Ghosts? What if you found something that was neither of those, but something that was much more dangerous? Your flashlight turns off, your video camera dies. Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's get out of here, with 3 more urban exploration gone wrong. Bye-bye. Never visit abandoned homes. I am a 19-year-old female, and a few years ago, I'd say I was about 16, me and a male friend of mine decided to go drive around in the country and look for some cool old houses that were still hanging around. We lived in a very small town in Kansas, so we had a ton of country to explore. We had been driving for an hour or so, just taking random turns, and had found a few houses already. We thought we spotted a building or something in some trees, and as we got closer, we discovered it was a small shed, but not too far from the shed was a small rundown house. We pulled up the dirt driveway, and laying in the middle of the driveway was half a carcass of a deer. It was strange, but we lived in Kansas, and we were practically in the middle of nowhere, so we figured a mountain lion had gotten it or something. As we came up closer to the house, we noticed that there wasn't just one deer. There were probably close to 20 or 30 deer that were half gone, just laying in the yard around the house. We got out of the truck and started to walk up to the house, but still thinking that it was just some weird coincidence that these deer had all died here. My friend wanted to see the inside of the house, but I wasn't really ready for that idea, so I just stayed outside. I walked around a little bit, but what really made me run for the truck was the hundreds of bones laying in the yard. I mean, hundreds. It was so weird and so creepy, and I think I flew back into the truck. As soon as I closed the door, my friend came tearing out of the house as fast as he could, with his look of pure terror and disgust on his face. He jumped in, started the truck, and we took off down the road. We got a little farther down the road, and he finally looked at me and said that there were dead animals everywhere in that house. I don't know what was going on in there. Maybe some illegal hunting going on or something. Although I don't know why anyone would hunt small animals like skunks. Anyways, it was super creepy, and we have never gone poking around abandoned homes again. Why I don't explore abandoned houses anymore. I grew up in Indiana, and when I was 17, I got my first car and started exploring. I live somewhere pretty suburban, but if you drive an hour south, you are in the middle of nowhere. Tons of cornfields and abandoned houses. My friend and I started driving out there a lot, and started going to these abandoned houses and exploring them. My dad bought a camera for the family a bit earlier, so I would take that and shoot some photographs of the houses. We got really good at finding them too. We looked out for the normal signs, broken mailboxes, long grass, heavy wear on the house, etc. But sometimes we were still worried about whether or not some of the places we went to were completely abandoned. The best houses don't look as obvious from the outside. Like, if a house looks like it's in decent condition, it's more likely to have stuff inside it. If it's super obvious, like all broken windows, missing a door, etc., kids probably already found it and spray painted it and broke shit. We were really respectful about it and wanted to explore places other people didn't. So we looked for more subtle places. I remember my friend and I were coming back from a concert in the summer. We spent the night at my cousin's place in the city, since the drive back is really long. We left during the day and started taking alternate routes back to try and find any cool places to explore. We were driving down this long dirt road, one of those that doesn't even have a name. It's called something like Country Road 3282 or whatever. After a while, we see a long dirt driveway come out to the left, and in the distance, we see this really broken house. We pulled up into the driveway and drove down. It was probably a quarter-mile long. There was no big no trespassing sign, which usually means the place is definitely abandoned. I know that sounds stupid, but it was something that made us more confident in the house. We park and walk up to it. The door was falling off, and the windows were cracked. Inside the house, everything was thrown down. It had that normal musty abandoned house smell, but it smelled stronger. Like more rotten, kind of. And just really heavy. I don't know how to describe it. It was really weird. I figured since most of the shit inside the house was thrown around and moldy and rotten, it was probably just that. There was this tiny room to the side, but it was completely dark, so we walked past it. We walked towards the stairs and started stepping over broken glass, like a lot of it. It's common to see broken glass on the floor, but a huge area was completely covered in it. It made loud cracks as we walked. I started feeling worried. We walked up the stairs, which were also covered in glass. At the top, there was a long hallway. 2 rooms were opened on the side, and at the end was a closed door. The 2 rooms were mostly empty. I saw a bunch of garbage in one room. Black hoses, mason jars, Coke bottles with tubing. We kept walking and went up to the door and opened it. Suddenly, the smell hit us hard. It was this super strong chemical or rotting odor. And then we spotted him. There was a guy in the room. He was really frail, super gaunt. He had really baggy clothes and sores all on his face. He was holding a rifle and staring right at us. I couldn't speak. I see some beakers, bottles, and tubing on this table that looked like a really shitty science fair project. He lifts up the gun, and we sprint out. We got out of the house and started the car and drove off. We called the police, and it turns out he and a friend were squatting the place and running a meth lab. The police found one guy upstairs, and the other guy was in that really dark room downstairs. He heard our car come and was hiding in there and watched us. I have no clue why he didn't try to stop us. He was probably just tweaking out really hard. The broken glass was there to make a noise, to alert them when someone was outside. I feel so lucky to be alive and safe, because they could have easily killed us, and nobody would have known that we were there, and they would have been safe. I haven't gone exploring abandoned houses since that. The residences of an abandoned retirement home. I assume now that the building in question was probably a retirement home. Although in high school, we treated it like it was an abandoned mental ward, but referred it to as the old folks' home. It was one of our greatest desires to explore it, and we completely expected and secretly wished to have a terrifying experience. Everyone agreed that the place was haunted, although it isn't, and I don't believe in that stuff anyways. It had been abandoned for as long as any of us knew, just on the outskirts of our small town in Middle America. There were 4 of us that explored the grounds, and later the interior in episodic increments, discovering more each time. The first time we were brave enough to go, it was just before dark. The place was locked up tight. The second time, a door at the back had its glass window smashed out. This should have been our first clue to stay away, as it was the glass with the lines of wire through it. Some of it hung out the window with a little dried blood on it. One of us reached through and turned the handle from the inside to open the door. With the windows boarded up, no moonlight lit the hallways, and we only had one flashlight. We went down 2 hallways. All the rooms along the way were empty except for 1 or 2, with a lone chair or bed frame. We discovered that there was a second floor and a basement, but we didn't get a chance to explore more, as a red light attached to a car battery freaked one of us out. He thought it was an alarm or something. Anyways, we scoped it out for a few weeks and made sure there weren't security patrols or anything weird like that. We never knew who owned it. Somebody had to own it. Nobody looked after it, aside from mowing the lawn once a month. We returned the third time with intentions to map the place out. I wanted to find some kind of cool antique or something. We were all freaked out by the darkness and the idea of ghosts, but none of us considered the possibility of other people being in the building. In the basement, we finally found creepy signs of other visitors, but it wasn't until the last minute that shit started to hit the fan. There was one room with a dirt floor and a Christmas tree planted in the middle of it. As in, it was a decorated pine tree, tinsel, beer cans, and paper clowns. Beer cans and empty liquor bottles encircled the room, a ridiculous amount of them. The door to the room was like a cell door, metal bars and a broken lock. One of us waited at the door because he kept hearing someone, and he called us with an update as we found a bunch of buried Christmas trees at the back of the room. "I think I hear someone," he whined his catchphrase. We had varying theories on the room. It was all new stuff as far as we could tell, not as dusty as everything else in the building. All in all, it was more odd than creepy. The room at the end of the hall had lights hanging from the ceiling, smashed to pieces, glass covering the floor. A staircase at the back led back up, an area we hadn't seen yet. There were chairs and desks clogging the way, splinters and nails pointing every direction. Everything happened in a flash. There was creak, then a door slamming shut down the hall, and we scurried over the desk and chairs to the ground floor. The door there was locked, so we continued to the second floor, which was unknown to us. We sprinted down the hall, and a doorway to our right caught our attention. Inside was a mattress. On the floor next to it was a giant tub of peanut butter and a pair of stained underwear. It depends on who you ask what the stains were. I would guess that they were stains with poop, but hearing things said it was blood. The silence as we took the room was deafening. Probably a homeless person lived there, nothing sinister. I stepped into the doorway to try and see more, and as soon as I saw the upside down cross on the wall, I think it was upside down, but it could have been the fear. We heard the wood snapping in the stairway we had come from, not just someone coming up, legs of chairs being broken. We bolted down the hall and found another staircase to get back to the ground floor and exit the building. We made it a block away and stopped to catch our breath. Everything was still for a moment, and then a car pulled out from behind the abandoned building and sped towards us. We ran again and didn't stop until we were back at my friend's house. None of us have a clue about anything we saw there. We didn't know if we should be worried or anything. We just hadn't seen enough, really. We never went near it again, and a year later, it was demolished. A Holiday Inn stands where the old folks' home once was. I don't care if anything creepy was actually taking place, but I'm glad we never met the residents of the abandoned retirement home.